Oil prices are on track for a weekly rise as the Ukraine war intensifies. Welcome to Market Insight. I'm Elena Casas. Oil prices were on track for gains on the week after Ukraine fired US and British-made missiles into Russian territory, and Moscow responded by firing a ballistic missile at Ukraine. The conflict raises the risk of supply disruption from one of the world's largest producers. Well, to discuss this and other factors moving the price, I'm joined now by Reed Lanson, economist at Kepler. Reed, hello. Markets are clearly concerned about the prospect of disruption of the Russian supply, even though it's been heavily sanctioned. Why is that?
Obviously, as we see ratcheting tensions within Ukraine, the concern of a supply disruption is on the table. However, I think for those of us at Kepler, we're assuming as of this moment that Russian crude flows will continue at a pretty normal pace that we've seen over the last year or so. And this is mostly based on just a historical precedent. If you remember, when we came into the war in early 2022, there were a lot of concerns that Russia would be unable to deliver its crude to the market. And yet we really saw a big recovery in flows, especially into 2023. And so I think as of this point, while we have seen a ratcheting in tensions, you'll likely continue to see Russia push a lot of oil towards India, towards China, and towards Turkey in particular.
The incoming Donald Trump administration has promised to try and end the conflict in Ukraine. What do you think it might mean for crude prices coming out of Russia?
Yeah, I think overall, if there is some kind of negotiated settlement, which is very much an open question right now, it's kind of an unknown. I think if there were to be some kind of negotiated settlement, that provided more optionality for Russia to sell into places that are currently, sticking with the U.S. and sticking with our sanctions regime here. You could see that $10 to $15 per barrel discount that Russia has had to kind of deal with over the last couple of years likely narrow or go away completely. But again, it's very much an open question right now if we get any kind of negotiated settlement. And if the United States does want to move forward and ease sanctions, will Europe follow suit? Obviously, the United States has not been a massive importer of Russian oil for quite a long time. So this is really a European story. They were obviously lifting a lot of Russian crude before the war began. And so would they follow the Trump administration's lead?
Donald Trump has also promised to turn up sanctions on Iran. What could be the implication of that for oil markets?
At this point, we're assuming that Trump will likely look to pressure the Chinese to purchase less Iranian barrels. Keep in mind that China right now lifts almost all Iranian crude exports, around 1.6 million barrels per day. We think by the middle of next year, maybe 500 to 600 KBD has come off the market. So that would put Iranian crude exports at closer to 1 million barrels per day. However, under that scenario, it's not necessarily bullish for oil prices because we think that Trump would successfully push OPEC Plus to produce a bit more oil to cover the loss in supply out of Iran.
How much willingness might there be, though, from OPEC Plus to do that, given that they have been reducing output in order to support the price?
I think that there are a number of OPEC players who are ready and willing to pump more oil. They've wanted to for a while now. Obviously, we have seen OPEC Plus put off, production increases over the last few months and kind of push back that timeline. So I think that if OPEC players were given the opportunity to pump more oil, they would be more than willing to do so, especially with the Trump administration that has shown a willingness to cozy up to Saudi interests and Saudi geopolitical aims during his first administration. So I think that, this time around, we're likely going to see, if the price starts to rise or if there's less supply on the market, Trump's probably going to start tweeting at Saudi Arabia and get pretty aggressive rhetorically. And that will likely lead to action out of OPEC Plus.
What about domestic production, Reed? Donald Trump has promised to increase it, but is there actually an incentive for US oil firms to drill more?
I think it's important to realize when you're thinking about the context of the US president and domestic energy production. Where Trump is going to make a lot of difference is on the infrastructure side. Quickening the pace of LNG export infrastructure approvals, maybe reopening, the construction of the Keystone XL pipeline for Canada. That's really areas where Trump can make a big difference. When it comes to physical production decisions, that's going to really be dictated by prices. And so next year, we're taking a kind of medium-term conservative view, saying maybe we get 300 to 400 KBD in oil production growth out of the U.S. next year.
Reed Lanson, economist at Kepler, thank you so much. And that's your Market Insight. You can watch more videos on Reuters.com.